out from paying the $5.8 million he currently owes his sex abuse survivor, Jean Carroll. He's going to have to get down on bended knee and beg the United States Supreme Court to block it, because the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, in a late night decision last night, has denied the emergency motion for stay, which would have blocked Judge Lewis Kaplan's order from yesterday, ordering that the clerk of the court pay out the cash bond that Donald Trump deposited 3 years ago, running with interest, and pay it directly to the lawyers for Jean Carroll at Robbie Kaplan's firm. Trump didn't like it. He certainly didn't like the order that I'm going to read to you from the district court judge, and he certainly isn't going to like and hasn't liked the Second Circuit Court of Appeals emergency ruling. His last stop on the train is going to be going back to the Supreme Court, but I'll explain to you here why there is almost no chance that this Supreme Court is going to reverse its own decision from a week and a half ago and let him stop paying and avoid paying his sex abuse victim. I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF. Story we've been following from day one. The story of Jean Carroll, who has been found by a jury to be a sex abuse victim of Donald Trump in a dressing room in a department store in New York back in 1996. 2 separate trials involving Jean Carroll and Donald Trump. He lost both. In one, he testified. In one, he didn't testify. When he didn't testify, the jury returned a $5 million verdict. That's the judgment we're talking about now. In a second trial about his defamation when he was the president of the United States against her, and punitive damages, he testified. The jury awarded $83.5 million, now over $90 million running with interest. The judgment we're focused on this particular hot take video is about the $5 million judgment in the first Carroll case. The other one, I'll tell you what's going on with that at the end. In that one, Trump appealed, lost. Trump asked for a full en banc, all 20 members of the Second Circuit to sit in judgment and give him a victory, and they denied it. He went to the United States Supreme Court and filed a petition for writ of certiorari, which is the traditional way you get an appeal granted by the Supreme Court, because it's discretionary with the Supreme Court. They pick and choose which cases they want to hear. And after 13 different weeks of consideration, 13 times, there were not 4 votes to grant that writ of certiorari. About 2 weeks ago, they denied it without dissent, meaning all 9 justices had no problem with denying a petition for writ of certiorari to take an appeal of a civil judgment of Donald Trump's sex abuse, defamation, and punitive damages. Not even his MAGA 6 came to his rescue. Not even Brett Kavanaugh or Clarence Thomas, who themselves have been accused of sex harassment or abuse, came to his rescue. And that was just about 10 days ago. So based on the order that was issued by Judge Kaplan, in setting up the escrow, the trust, the amount that was deposited cash into the court registry, as soon as Trump exhausted all of his appeals through a writ of, even up to a writ of certiorari with the Supreme Court, as soon as that was denied, payment gets made with running interest to Jean Carroll. But Donald Trump lobbed in a last hand grenade. He said to Judge Kaplan, but I have filed a motion for reconsideration with the Supreme Court that just denied without dissent his request to have an appeal. Right? You can count on no fingers the amount of times a request for reconsideration on the facts I've just laid out procedurally has ever been granted. And so Judge Kaplan in his order said, enough is enough. It is time to pay, and pay up. Equity demands it. I'm going to read to you from the order. Trump didn't like that order, so he ran to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, and they issued an order against him. Let's start with how this started. On the 8th of July, we got the order directing the clerk of the court to pay out the money to Robbie Kaplan's lawyers. It says, now, therefore, is on page 2, the clerk is respectfully directed to disperse from the court registry investment system. It's a deposit system within the court, the value of the principal judgment, which amounts to $5 million, to the trust account of Kaplan Martin, Robbie Kaplan, lawyer for Jean Carroll, and then also disperse interest to her, which we've calculated to be over close to $5.8 million in total. So $800,000 of interest. Signed, Lewis Kaplan, United States District Judge. The Trump side filed an opposition trying to block that and argued that he has filed a petition for rehearing with the Supreme Court, and that should be enough, Judge. We have a petition for rehearing. Let's see what happens with the Supreme Court. We just saw what happened with the Supreme Court. You were rejected 13 times, and then finally they put a final nail in the coffin. It is dead. Your appeal on the $5 million is dead, and it's not going to be resurrected because you have some sort of magical thinking about it. But that didn't stop Donald Trump. And so after Judge Kaplan rejected the request to stay his order to stop the money from flowing directly to Jean Carroll yesterday, he also issued a memorandum to explain why. Let me read to you from the memorandum. We will put this up on Legal AF Substack for all to read. This is what it says. More than 3 years ago, a jury returned a verdict against the defendant for $5 million for sexual abuse and defamation. The judgment was appealed. The defendant posted a $5,550,000 bond with the court to secure payment of the judgment. The judgment was affirmed on appeal. The jury's verdict was affirmed by the Court of Appeals, or the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals denied rehearing the case, and the Supreme Court on June 29th denied without dissent defendant's petition for writ of certiorari. Plaintiff has now moved for disbursement of the funds. Defendant resisted, contending that the payment must, or in any event should be stayed against the possibility that the Supreme Court might change its mind. Again, it denied his petition without any dissenters and grant his petition for rehearing. And then the judge goes through the final rulings. And here's what he says at the end, after going through all the reasons why his order must be complied with and payment must be made. He says on the last page, in the last analysis, defendant has been stalling this case for years. That's Trump. A jury unanimously concluded that he sexually abused and defamed plaintiff and awarded her damages accordingly. The judgment on that verdict has been upheld on appeal. En banc rehearing has been denied. The Supreme Court has denied certiorari without dissent. It's time for him to do equity and pay the judgment. So ordered July 8th, 2026, Lewis Kaplan, United States District Court Judge. That led Donald Trump to file an emergency appeal to the Second Circuit Court of Appeals and asked for a stay to block that money from going. His main concern, which he listed in his opposition paper, is that Jean Carroll has said she's going to give away the money, and that because she's going to give it away, he won't be able to get it back. Here's what he says in the bottom of page 2. President Trump, however, faces an unrecoverable loss. Plaintiff has repeatedly stated that she intends to give away all her funds that she collects from him, and once those funds are distributed to third parties, they likely cannot be recovered. Go after her. Put the money. He's had the money on his side of the ledger for 3 years against a sex abuse victim. It is time to put the money on the other side of the ledger and let him go after her. If somehow some miracle happens and he reverses this decision, which I don't see he has a snowball chance in hell of doing. Now, I interviewed Jean Carroll about a year ago on this particular issue of what she was going to do with the money. Play the clip.
3 women who have been so dimmed by money, they can't see what is happening. They cannot see it. They have an inability to see what's actually going on. And I hold them partly responsible. All 3 of those women could have acted, but none of them are. It's tragic. It's tragic that Ivanka is not doing anything, and neither is her husband.
Well, they've profited mightily out of this, haven't they?
You know, what is money? You know, if I get the $83 million, I'm going to give it away to basically to women to try to get the 50 years of our rights, which they took away, try to get those back. Money is not that. All it is stuff. I don't understand the drive, but I'll be giving that away. You guys can help me.
Where does the case stand right now at this point?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know.
Well, Michael, what do you think? Take it away.
I think the 2 appeals that he's tried at the Second Circuit, based on the panels, including Judge Chen, who I know pretty well, they've rejected him. He's not going to be able to assert immunity, which was waived by Alina Habba and others a long time ago, and a long time ago, as referenced in the back-to-back oral arguments that Robbie so successfully argued in the last month or so. I don't see the United States Supreme Court, even this MAGA right-wing court, being that interested in events that happened when he was Citizen Trump, when he attacked you and defamed you at all. There's only one event or one series of events that happened when he was even president, which was the defamation after the fact. I just don't see this court in a civil matter having given him carte blanche in the criminal world, even they bailing him out and trying to do anything to undermine your judgments. That's my opinion.
I concur.
Looking good.
Yeah, I like that.
Does Robbie or anybody else give you a timeline on how this is going to work out or when?
No, but we have a foundation already set up, lobe and lobe, by the chair, Rachel Harris of the State Department. We've got the foundation ready to go. We're just waiting for the money, and then that money is going to be given out.
I know Ben, my podcast partner, was trying to convince you not to give it all out.
Yeah,
he mentioned something about he wanted to see you have it.
No, I don't need it. You know what? I'm 81. I know money doesn't make me happy. Adventure, going for a walk with the dogs, having a great fettuccine Alfredo. That's the stuff that makes me happy. I don't need a bunch of money.
Maybe Donald Trump's lawyers were watching. Who knows? In any event, what happens next to this judgment? Donald Trump's going to have to lob in an emergency stay, try to get the Supreme Court on vacation to give him a stay. It'll come up through Justice Sotomayor because she sits over the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. This is not happening. I will tell you one way or the other what happens, but I do not believe there is less than 1% chance. I know under the Dumb and Dumber theory of Donald Trump, he says, well, there's a chance. You're saying there's a chance. Yeah, there's no chance. But we will report on it right here. Side note PS, what's going on with the 83, now almost over $90 million for her second judgment? That's still kicking around. Again, he's lost at the jury level. He's lost at the Second Circuit Court of Appeals level. Twice. He's lost at the Second Circuit en banc level. He has a petition like he had for the other one in with the Supreme Court. They have not ruled on it. I just don't see even this MAGA 6 of the Supreme Court siding with Donald Trump in a civil case about sex abuse. Could you imagine how much time we would spend on Brett Kavanaugh's own allegations of sex abuse against him, or against Sam Alito, against Clarence Thomas with Anita Hill during his confirmation hearing? They're not going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. And she'll eventually, and maybe the beginning of next year, but she's going to get over $90 million more. So almost $100 million. Now, she didn't ask for this. She didn't want it. She didn't want to be a sex abuse victim of Donald Trump or survivor, and she doesn't let that define her life. As soon as this is all over, I will have Jean Carroll back, along with her lawyer, Robbie Kaplan, for a brief